So I want your undivided attention. Of course, it is very difficult following your Honorable Chief Minister, Mr. Conrad Sangma, how he's, you are lucky to be living in Meghalaya, to be honest with you, to have such a dynamic, visionary Chief Minister that he is. And of course, you are lucky to be in an institution of University of Science and Technology where you have the leadership of Honorable Chancellor and his team, Mehboob Sahab. This is amazing. I mean, when I was coming to the United States, from United States, what I thought was I should look up all the videos that are available on YouTube. And I was really, when he had this meeting with all of you, I think there were senior students, and the faculty was there, and he was standing there and he was addressing grievances of the students one-on-one. I have been to many institutions and I've never witnessed that one-to-one, hands-on handling the grievances of the students. So you truly are lucky. Trust me, this doesn't happen anywhere else. So give yourself a hand. It is an awesome gathering on this historic day. First, let me say Happy Durga Puja to you all. And really, it is your tenacity that you stuck around despite the onset of the Puja celebration. Well, that is an amazing feat. And thank you for all that. And also, to top it all, guess what? India won the match against West Indies. Another round of applause.
South Africa.
So it is really a great honor and privilege to join each one of you who is sitting over there, the August gathering on this stage, off this stage, my fellow physicians, and my dear students who are dear to my heart. Of course, I'm truly honored and humbled to be present and join the festivities and I'm thankful to respectable Chancellor Mehboob Sahab. So, boy, I grew up in Aligarh, by the way. I don't know how many of you know in UP. So when we are growing up in that part of the world, we used to watch movies, right? You all guys watch the movies, right? And we always used to see this beautiful depiction of Kashmir Ki Kali and all those movies. But we never saw anything from Northeast. And that was, I think, I realized that when I was flying from Delhi to Guwahati, and I suddenly saw that the whole landscape, and this was a bird's eye view, of UP and Bihar was kind of brownish fields and there were some interspersed greenish area. All of a sudden when we arrived in Assam, the whole scenery changed, beautiful, all lush green. And we never imagined living in Aligarh, we never imagined that there is a part of the world that we had to see. And I was really awed with the beauty of this part of the world. Unfortunately, this part of the world was ignored. And for so many years, this part of the world remained ignored by government, and we can talk about it at another time. But this is the fact. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief, it was the epoch of incredulity. It was a season of light, it was a season of darkness. It was a spring of hope, it was the winter of despair. We had everything before us, and we had nothing before us. We were all going directly to the heaven. We were all going directly the other way. In short, the period was so far like the present one. These were the world of Charles Dickens. Hundreds of years ago, what he predicted actually happen in our lives. Perhaps he was writing, foreseeing this in the present age of COVID-19. Ladies and gentlemen, we saw the best of humanity and the worst of humanity during this pandemic. We saw the heroic and selfless dedication of millions of healthcare workers, doctors, nurses, health aides, and even low-paid workers, and how our colleagues and workers came together to fight this deadly disease with little regard to personal safety and well-being. And we all know how many of our dear colleagues that we have lost. At Aligarh Muslim University, Jawaharlal Nehru Medical College, I think we lost like 29 or 30 professors and senior staff and the not so senior staff. And they just died to this disease. We also saw the different governments coming together and doing, fighting this epidemic. And never before in our lifetime or in previous generation has this been observed. Probably, if you can come closest, is in the so-called Spanish flu of the 1915s, that this epidemic was of that nature. But the good news was, from China, we received the first notification of this disease on January 22nd, 2020. And we did not even imagine that we will have a vaccine. But within 10 months' time, we had 2 vaccines that were approved by the agency in USA, FDA. Within 10 months' time, we have 2 vaccines which are approved for emergency use. This has never been done in the past. The closest a vaccine has been developed, it took 4 years, and that was in the case of mumps vaccine in the 1960s. My job here is to talk to you about what is the burden of healthcare in this part of the world. Cardiovascular diseases is #1 cause of death and morbidity in this, even in India. Although our general understanding is probably infectious diseases are high. Yes, it is high, but cardiovascular diseases is probably #1. So what are the risk factors for these diseases? Diabetes is #1, high blood pressure, smoking, abnormal lipid profile, you have commonly heard about high cholesterol, family history of premature heart disease, genetic predisposition, South Asian, I think we should change that. The whole society has to change that. Instead of when you're celebrating bringing ghee, you should bring in some bowl of fruit as a token of, appreciation. Of course, pollution can also have. There are certain areas that I really wanted to highlight. One is mental health. Mental health has not been recognized as an important health issue in the world. Of course, in the Western societies, people are recognizing it and considering it as a disease. But before that, there was no, and it is such a stigma. If you have a family member who has, God forbid, some, manic depressive psychosis, really are. And this should be for you folks, the students who are sitting here, you should think out of the box. I'm not saying fight with your, regular scheduled curriculum, but always start think and discuss and form, groups to discuss these findings. And finally, with the last speaker, he mentioned about reading books, reading things that are other than your specialty. Please do so. Reading opens your mind. Read biographies. Read biographies of politicians and scientists, and see what makes them bit. What makes them a scientist? What makes them what they are? And finally, there is a book which is very dear to my heart, and it is called as The Art of Reading a Book. Trust me, I regret I didn't read this book 10 years ago or 20 years ago. This would have changed my whole concept of how to read and grasp knowledge from the books. Now, I'm not going to go into much detail. What I would say is, when I first heard about this project, I got excited. My dear friend Faisal, he introduced me to Mehboob Sahab, and then we had many meetings on Skype. And I was amazed by his dedication. And you all saw the kind of animation that he had when he was talking and how passionate he is about this university. I have no doubt about it that this university will start this international PS Sangma Institute of Medicine.
Students, what happened? You sit here, sit there, immediately. Program will be finished by next 20 minutes. You sit down, please.
So, I was talking to one of my colleagues in America about Mehboob Sahab, and I mentioned him, do you know him? He said, who doesn't know Sir Sayyid of the East? I don't know how many of you know Sir Sayyid Ahmad Khan. He was a revolutionary educationist who was the founder of Aligarh Muslim University. So he truly is, I would say, is Sir Sayyid of the East. At the end, I'm going to recite a share of Majrooh Sultanpuri. मैं अकेला ही चला था जानबे मंजिल मगर मैं अकेला ही चला था जानबे मंजिल मगर लोग साथ आते गए और कारवां बनता गया. And for Rona, because I don't think so she understands Urdu, I would translate loosely. Alone did I start my journey, and people kept joining me to form a caravan. And lastly, I will recite this. The woods are lovely, dark and deep. The words are lovely, dark and deep. Here, especially in Meghalaya, see how dark and deep they are. But I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Wase.